Alrighty everyone, welcome back. So we're about 19 days away from Indiana Jones 5 and its release date on June 30th. We have a lot of things to talk about because we have people out there like Kathleen Kennedy, James Mangold, the creator of the film, talking more and more about this movie that's been getting a lot of fans, to put it bluntly here, very concerned about the direction of this film, and how basically Kathleen Kennedy does call it a educational piece as well as an entertainment piece that's going to send a lot of messages to moviegoers and fans about the franchise around the globe. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. Now, one thing about everything related to Kathleen Kennedy is that she is very much invested in getting the ball rolling for Skeleton Crew to arrive by this holiday season. By the way, guys, just to fill you all in, I do not advocate the vision of Skeleton Crew and the Acolyte simply because it's run by Kathleen Kennedy, Leslie Headland, and John Watts. And that's not to say that John Watts is a bad filmmaker or director or whatever have you, but at the same exact time, I don't believe he's fit for Star Wars because basically what Watts wants to do is he wants to Marvelize Star Wars completely using Skeleton Crew. But I digress. Moving to the more important thing here is what Kathleen Kennedy had to say about the box office results for Indy 5, or the projections, if you will, whatever you want to call it, and the overall estimated numbers and how a lot of fans are expecting this movie to fail. She actually was able to touch base on this and, pretty much kind of elaborate on that whole outlook on things related to Indy 5. So let's tap into this. Now, with Kathleen Kennedy promoting Indy 5 and her other Star Wars projects like Acolyte lately, she recently answered many questions related to Indy 5 and was actually pressed about the Indy 5 box office projections. Now, Kennedy got defensive by stating the following. Of course, at this day and age, you are going to hear everything of everything, especially related to this film. And for a group of fans and even critics who have never seen the movie just yet, that are already projecting our return projections, not to be a successful one, are not the type of fans or moviegoers we try to entertain. Sometimes people want you to fail, and some of those, don't agree with your story and try to bring you down. It's very unfair to see the early projections, and it's completely unprofessional and illogical for many people to assume we won't succeed. Once again, these are not fans of Indiana Jones, and these are fans that do not support our vision and take movies way too seriously. We are happy that this film is going to send multiple messages to the general public that's going to give them deep knowledge and a different view of the world, so we like to view Indy 5 as both an entertainment piece and an educational piece. Now let me just stop here, guys, for 1 second. Let's take it back, alright, before she gets into the more in-detailed stuff. I just want to point out here, there's a lot of cringe dialogue in Indy 5, and a lot of critics that saw this movie did point that out at Cannes Film Festival, that the dialogue is just flat out of place and disjointed from the previous dialogue that was more fun and more, quippy stuff, joking around. All that kind of great dialogue is now gone, and a lot of it is Helena giving you educational pieces about history, giving you alternate viewpoints of the world, and you guys may very well know a lot of dialogue that's spilled out there for Indy 5 that is very cringeworthy material, and you guys know exactly what I'm talking about because it's been repeated several times. But when we look at Indy 5, The Dial of Destiny, we do know that this movie is going to have a lot to do with time travel and how we're going to be spanning through 2 different decades mainly. And what's interesting about this approach by Kathleen Kennedy of how critics and fans making box office projections are immature and illogical and have no idea what they're talking about. Now, number one, there's a lot of critics out there that know what they're talking about and are usually right when it comes to box office projections. And they have a calculated, maneuver or system to do that. They can see exactly how it's going to perform in the general sense. Of course, they're not going to be right on specifics down to the number. but they have a general idea of where Indy 5 is going to go. And it's not looking good, because number one, guys, let's be honest here, the marketing is a failure. I, myself, even though I'm not a huge TV watcher, every time I do turn it on, I never see an Indy 5 commercial, a TV spot, whatever it may be, a clip, anything. I don't see anything. I haven't even seen Harrison Ford go on late night television yet to promote this movie. And maybe he will in the coming days, but usually you would want to do this quite a number of weeks out from the movie's release, put out a clip, stuff like that. Moving to the next thing about what Kathleen Kennedy said here, I don't want to go too off subject. She goes on to say the following. Those projections you see on social media are completely misleading and not to be trusted, and so I ask everyone to give the film a chance, because nobody can tell the future of box office results. Nobody. It's just ridiculous and cannot happen. It's usually a thing in the media that just happens when they see a couple of critics earlier on that had some critiques, and so to us, as creators, it's insulting for those projections to even be assumed in the slightest scenario to the general public to see. Now again, what I can translate from this is that Kathleen Kennedy is getting very defensive for fans not seeing what is most likely going to be her last very big project in theaters. And yes, I say that, her last very big project in theaters, because everything else is on TV or on a streaming service. The other two projects that she's in control of, in case you guys have not been around, is The Acolyte and Skeleton Crew. Those are 100% Kathleen Kennedy-driven Star Wars shows, and those are for Disney+. They are not coming out in theaters, obviously, let alone on regular television. So this is most likely going to be her last movie entry through Lucasfilm, through Disney, and I could see why she's getting very defensive now, because she's beginning to realize that. And look, at the end of the day, this could have all been very well avoided if they just wanted to make a very good and entertaining movie that would honor the legacy, that would honor the lore of Indiana Jones, and perhaps, you know what, maybe they could have, jotted down more notes about what they really wanted to do for a while with Indiana Jones 5. We know that there's a lot of flashbacks in this movie and different scenarios that allow him to be young, and we'll tap into that a little bit later, but they could have took advantage of that more. This way we don't have an 80-something-year-old or 80-year-old Indiana Jones running around and doing these adventures too much. To me, it just seems very unrealistic. It seems a little out of place, to be honest, and quite literally, it's not realistic to me, at least. But moving to the next thing here is this. We know that James Mangold was pressed to do, we talked about this, a total of 6 endings of Indiana Jones 5, as opposed to the previously assumed 4 endings for Indiana Jones 5, so there were only 6 endings to the number right now, and that's pretty much the max about what we actually have knowledge of. And so I think at the end of the day, given that the ending that was showed on Cannes Film Festival was the finale, or the final one, that left a lot of critics also very disappointed. So overall, guys, I would love to hear your viewpoint on all of this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.
From night to moon.